This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Shashina Rolf-Farkas, and as always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news, owners of high-rise buildings on Grand Bahama admonished to put in place preventative maintenance programs to avoid tragedy. Officials at the Grand Bahama Port Authority making this appeal following the deadly collapse of a condominium complex in Miami last month. Ramiko Knowles has our top story.
As the death toll continues to rise following that fatal collapse of the Champlain Towers south in Surfside, Miami, prayers are being lifted for the families of those losing loved ones. Here at home, officials at the Grand Bahama Port Authority say while it is out of their jurisdiction, they are focused on measures they are taking to prevent such a tragedy locally.
At this time, would want to share a few thoughts as it relates to high-rise buildings. And by code, especially those that are classified as any buildings greater than or at the level of 75 feet above natural grade.
Chief Building Manager Dudley Francis says the well-being of all residents is of utmost importance to the GBPA. He says once property owners maintain their buildings in accordance with the code, residents can reside in high-rise buildings in a safe and comfortable manner.
And by that, I mean property owners can make sure that in conjunction with our annual assessments, implement these preventative maintenance programs, which would include doing a structural assessment, and that would be undertaken by a licensed structural engineer who would pay attention to the different structural components of the building to make sure that they are not near unsafe conditions.
In addition, he says attention must also be given to the exit facilities.
Things like the stairways, corridors, and exit doors, as well as all the other necessary services with the building, such as the electrical system, the illumination, fire protection system, plumbing system, and of course ventilation, in addition to performing assessments on any major piece of equipment within that building.
Now, to ensure that property owners are performing maintenance work on their buildings, he says the Building and Development Department has an ongoing practice of performing random high-rise building assessments.
Annually, we would reach out to these various property owners to perform our assessments, and as we find any issues related to them, we would bring it to their attention again to meet code compliance. And I would also like to take this opportunity to say that in terms of addressing some of these concerns, one of the things that we have been doing is that we would have put forward certain acts that we need to make adjustments with as far as the Freeport bylaws is concerned to better enforce and address some of these concerns that the public would have.
Francis maintains that the port is also actively engaging in contractors' workshops for those in the construction field where they address safety issues. Ramiko Knowles, ZNS Network News.
While the fight against COVID-19 continues across the country, tonight the head of the COVID-19 task force is giving a progress report on the islands, and the key is to help protect against the newly formed variant. Italia Hall reports.
Head of Grand Bahama's COVID-19 task force, Dr. Frank Bartlett, says Grand Bahama is doing well as it relates to COVID-19 cases. He says hospitalizations are low and persons who have tested positive for the virus are not as ill as others were at the beginning of the year. He says a few weeks ago, Grand Bahama saw a slight spike in COVID cases, and that was attributed to the fact that a few persons tested positive on a ship.
Those persons were not allowed to leave the vessel, so as far as saying impacting our numbers or their positivity impacting our community, they weren't allowed to leave that ship. We have seen a few clusters, small groups, but all in all, our numbers are looking pretty good.
Now the new Delta variant remains a concern for many.
We're sending samples to an international laboratory for testing. What we do know is we do have variants in our population. We suspect that it may be the Delta variant, but we have no clear-cut identification as it relates to that part of it. So the assumption is, in what you want to be thinking about how the mindset should be that the Delta variant is here.
He says with COVID-19 cases, global data shows that the general trend is downward. But among the unvaccinated area, even in the United States, the numbers are going up.
When you look at the data in the different countries, a lot of the cases, as much as 80 to 90% of them, are due to the Delta virus. So things you want to understand about the Delta virus, it is about 40 to 60% more transmissible. We still have data, or we're looking at analyzing the data as it relates to the amount of death or mortality that it causes. We know in some of the regions of the world that it is responsible for an increase in hospitalization, but again, we're still learning more about the Delta virus.
In the latest vaccine tracker report, over 95,000 doses of the vaccine have been administered throughout the country. Dr. Bartlett telling Bahamians to get vaccinated, as the vaccine can help to protect against the new Delta variant. Now, recently it was reported that a small percentage of people who received one dose of the vaccine caught COVID-19 and later died. Dr. Bartlett confirming that none of those deaths occurred in Grand Bahama. There has also been some concern surrounding the amount of vaccines left in the country. He says as it stands right now, the health team is waiting on a new batch.
Challenge we have now is we don't have any firm data on that. So the vaccines that we have now, over the next week to two, you'll be hearing information as to what the plan is as far as saying the utilization of the vaccines that we have. But the consultative committee and all of the agencies that are responsible for acquisition of the vaccines, they're working diligently with other jurisdictions to try to see if we can get those vaccines in a timely fashion.
He says Bahamians must not let their guards down and must continue to follow all of the health protocols so that the country can remain in a good position in the fight against the deadly COVID-19 virus. Italia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Meantime, a crew scheduled for Biminites to travel to Florida to take the Johnson & Johnson one-jab COVID vaccine being organized for tomorrow. This comes as the third wave has resulted in a spike in cases on that northern island, in addition to tighter restrictions. A former resident and advocate of that island has been called on to assist with coordinating the trip. With a recent spike in COVID-19 cases on the island and with a limited COVID-19 vaccine supply in the country, stakeholders in the Bimini community have come together to organize a free trip for residents to travel to Florida to take the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
I'm a Biminite, and I was contacted in reference to assisting in getting Biminites ready for a venture, and that venture is the opportunity to be taken into the United States to receive the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and to return within a matter of hours.
Former Bimini resident and advocate Dr. Pamela Mills is involved with the coordinated efforts, and she along with the team have been charged with getting residents to sign up to take the one-dose vaccine in Florida.
The response has been very good. People are signing up. And one of the things, too, that's going on, the visa has been waived because it's going to be a controlled environment. So people are additionally signing up. Yes, it's been very receptive, well received, and the numbers are climbing as we speak.
Bimini residents who have signed up will travel to South Florida on board the Balearia for free at 11 a.m. on Wednesday. The only requirement is a valid ID. Mills says she is hopeful that as much Biminites as possible take advantage of this offer.
We're collecting names, we're signing people up, and we're ready to make this happen. It's a way of dealing with the COVID situation that's in Bimini, and I think it's a splendid idea that the partnering with, I guess, the resorts and the cruise ship and whomever else, and the health team out of Nassau putting this venture together to make sure things go right for the island of Bimini.
As a result of the recent spike in COVID-19 cases, Bimini has been placed on a 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew, along with social gathering restrictions to mitigate the spread of the virus. But Mills makes it clear that this trip is only a quick turnaround for the vaccine, and then it's back to Bimini.
If you're interested in Walmart and BJ's and Costco's and all, you won't be able to do that on this trip. This is a straight up, get the task done, and return to Bimini. Nothing more, nothing less. There is no room for anything else.
Switching gears now, the countdown is on to the country's 48th anniversary of independence. The theme this year is A Celebration of Life, Revive Us Again. Well, the West Grand Bahama District and West Grand Bahama Independence Committee hosting a press conference in that community this morning to update the public on a flag raising ceremony that is set to take place Friday morning. Natalia Hall was there.
The flag-raising ceremony in West Grand Bahama will be held outside of the Administrator's Complex in 8 Mile Rock on Friday morning. Administrator Gilbert Kemp reflecting on the day that the country first achieved its independence.
I'm old enough to state, I don't know if anybody else on the panel is, I was there on July 10th, 1973. I might have been about 2 years old, but I was there. I saw people with expressions of joy when the Union Jack was coming down. And when you saw the Bahamian flag going up, people around me were just weeping and crying. I wasn't sure what it was all about, but it made an impression on me.
He says the older generation must do their part to educate young people on the importance of independence.
And many of us, and I'm sure most of us who've been off to college, when you're in some country or some city in America, you have your Bahamian flag all on your door, all the pictures and everything, because we're proud of who we are. But it can't be we're proud when we're outside of the country. We have to be proud of our heritage, of our culture, of our country, you know, as Bahamians. And so it's important for us, as the older generation, like anybody over 40 I'm talking about, to impress on the younger people, the millennials, that is important for you, for us. We didn't just get it by accident. It was because of blood, sweat, and tears. And we must pass this on.
Now the Member of Parliament for Central Grand Bahama, the Honorable Iram Lewis, the Member of Parliament for West Grand Bahama and Bimini, the Honorable Pakeisha Parker Edgecombe, as well as the Mayor of North Miami and other United States councilors are expected to be in attendance at the flag-raising ceremony. Activities are set to begin at 9 a.m. Chief Counselor for the West Grand Bahama District Council, Kevin Morris, is encouraging residents to join in the celebration.
We're going to have prayers for the nation. We're going to be featured. We're going to be featured with a live band throughout the day. So we're making an appeal for the residents of West Grand Bahama to come out to enjoy and to celebrate our 40th year of independence.
COVID-19 protocols will be enforced.
We are in a COVID-19 environment, and again, we are going to adhere to the social distancing. So our tents, we will be under a tent. We will have the spacing, the social distancing, sanitizers, and we want to ensure that everyone that come out, we're going to be safe. And of course, we ensure that everyone come with their masks on.
It's Halia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Tonight, we continue our series highlighting Bahamian artists in honor of the country's 48th independence. In this report, we feature a woman whose musical journey began in her hometown of Bimini with her father's band, Ozzie Brown and the Calypsonians. And although she relocated to the United States at the age of 15 during her interview or stage performances, she proudly represents the 242. Ramiko Knowles has more.
Well, you know, Tara Lynn is the one and only Bimini gal, always repping the Bahamas and the entire Caribbean.
She was born into music, and it is a part of who she is. Tara Lynn's heart and passion for her craft has placed her on stages around the world. But no matter which part of the globe her gift takes her, she never forgets about the 242.
I don't leave home without a flag. That's automatic. So, you know, it feels good. Like I said, you know, just the pride of, you know, even representing for my dad and carrying on that legacy as well. It makes me feel good. And, you know, being from the Bahamas, from Bimini, one of the smallest islands, 7 miles long, a half-mile wide, population of about 2,500 people, give or take. And, you know, sometimes I perform at these festivals like 5,000 people, and I never forget to tell them, it's more people here than where I grew up. You know, so it doesn't matter where you come from. You know, you set your mind to something, you follow your passion, and you could accomplish anything.
One of her greatest professional accomplishments was being on the song titled More Fire from international recording artist Lil Wayne's The Carter 2 album in 2008. She says, for her, music is life.
When I'm doing music, I feel like I'm at the top of my game. Like nothing could affect me. You know what I mean? Like I got Teflon. I got everything that I need to just conquer the world. And the other part about that process too is the creative process. That is just so fulfilling for me.
This year's Independence theme is a celebration of life, revive us again. As a Bahamian artist, she explains what that means to her.
I feel like if we're talking about revive us again, let's go back. Let's take it really back to their culture. You know what I mean? Or even having people still come over, but giving them real good, genuine experiences, like showing them what real Bahamian things is. And I don't want to offend nobody, but a lot of times when people come, we're not even playing our own music. You know, like let's go back to that. Let's give people real Bahamian culture. And I feel like that is a way that we could revive us again.
And on that same token, as an artist, what are some of your aspirations, your goals, and your hopes for other Bahamian artists?
Oh my gosh, that we collaborate. That's the thing that I think is needed so badly. You know, sometimes we get so laser focused on our own goals and our own lane, and that's great. But as far as Bahamians, we need to come together because we will always be stronger together.
And as she continues to grow her fan base around the world, and even in our office, she says she will continue to do it with her Bahamian flag waving high.
I want to say happy independence to the country that raised me, to the country that made me, to my roots and my culture. I love ya, aquamarine, gold, and black.
Ramiko Knowles, ZNS Network News.
That's it, and that's all. Good job, Ramiko. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.